thing with avoidance is you have to activate, right? If you've been dissociating, numbing, these sorts of things, you have to activate the emotion before you can start the healing journey. Whereas an anxious person, they're already flooded. They're in emotion storms, right? So they're working on how to regulate. So they're almost like a step ahead. An avoidant person has to activate and then go through all the steps an anxious person would have to go through, right? They have to learn how to feel and be with some of their big emotions. Around security, like what would be some things that you would say can help the listener viewer move towards security? Like what are some, maybe your top three things that you would suggest that they focus on?
I think one of the first things that I would recommend is develop an awareness habit, such as journaling whenever you have like big emotions come up, just to get started. Because a really easy thing you can do is you can go back to a significant relationship that you've had recently. So, say if you're more anxiously attached, pay attention to the moments where you may have felt jealous, where you felt like, your partner wasn't going to respond back to you after a text message. Take the time just to even write out some of the thoughts that you might have been having at that particular moment, just to start separating yourself a little bit from it. The second thing that I highly recommend, just to even get this work really rolling, is also develop an emotional regulation technique. I am a huge fan of techniques like rage journaling, of just writing out how I'm feeling from time to time, and even dialoguing with certain parts of myself when they come up. And that's a bit of an advanced technique, but one of the best things that I found is just that anytime I feel a major emotion, just to really express it. And the final part that I'm actually going to recommend, which does connect a little bit to dialoguing, is one of my favorite techniques that I think is really essential, and this is especially true for anyone who's experiencing insecure attachment, is I would start meeting your inner critic. Often I find people with insecure attachment have a scathing voice telling them, if you're anxious, well, if you did X, Y, Z, then this person wouldn't have left you. Whereas the avoidant might have, well, you're a bad person, so they're not going to want to be with you anyways. You might as well try and cover that shit up, because if they find out who you are, they're going to reject you or they're going to shout at you. And so the reason I think that part is really important to address before any of the other stuff is because if you attempt to meet your inner child or to do any of this other stuff without addressing that part of you, good luck. Because that part can cut you into a million pieces. And it's very easy to just tell it to shut the fuck up. But, for those of us that are in the mental health world, we know that that actually is the worst thing you can do to that part of yourself. So I'd say around at that piece is it's really good to learn how to communicate and validate and hear what that part of you is saying, and to unpack a lot of that. Far easier said than done, probably best with a clinician, but just want to say, just beginning that awareness, developing your emotional regulation, and even just getting into dialogue with that inner critic can do so much good foundational stuff.